Bom, vou começar aqui em português.
Okay.
Por quê? Porque estamos aqui com Javier, que entende português, Javier Campopiano, mas definitivamente não fala, e perder ele na sua plenitude vai ser uma dó. Então, a gente vai fazer mesmo em inglês. E temos aqui também, quero agradecer desde já ao Roberto, ao Renato Fernandez, que está aqui com a gente, que está lá de Los Angeles, e vai nos ajudar, é amigo do Javier, então vai conseguir fazer aí as perguntas boas para a gente tirar dele as coisas mais divertidas. Eu conheço o Javier e sou uma fã assim, ardorosa do trabalho dele, ele sabe disso, a gente trabalhou junto, e sou, assim, desde a época que ele já aparecia como um garoto prodígio na Argentina, fazendo o teletransporter que para cerveja, que hoje, depois a gente pode falar sobre isso, não sei se seria possível, até ele fazer a Vuela e finalmente ele ganhar o mundo e virar essa coisa gigantesca e brilhante que ele sempre foi para a gente, que conhecia ele, quando ele faz o Tie Dead. Então, perguntas não faltarão, e eu quero então aqui agradecer em nome do Clube de Criação a Rede Globo, que patrocina esse espaço, que foi nosso parceiro aí nesse apoio para a gente conseguir fazer o Clube Insights, que traz esses nomes gigantes, maravilhosos. Aqui hoje a gente está aí com o Renato e a gente entrevistando o Javier Campopiano, e isso para mim é uma felicidade sem fim, a gente conseguir fazer isso num ano tão difícil em que a gente está conseguindo fazer tanta coisa. E o Dedé Laurentino aí, gente! Tem sempre essas grandes personalidades. O Dedé vai estar com a gente também, como um dos gigantes que estão aí fora. E é isso, sem mais, vamos lá. Renatinho, é com tu. Javier, welcome, my darling.
Thank you, obrigado. Apologies for not speaking in Portuguese. I should know how to speak in Portuguese at this point of my career.
You should come to Brazil, which is different.
Yeah, I know. So first of all, thank you. A big fan of your work, of course, of Renato's work. You know that. So thank you for having me. Of course, a big fan of Brazilian advertising all my life. So it's an honor to be here. I don't know how prestigious the Clube de Criação is, and so it's an honor, truly an honor.
Thank you very much, Javier. Thank you for joining us. Joanna, thanks for making the introductions. I'm really happy to be here. As I was telling them, I was invited last minute to be here, but I couldn't say no. Javier is a great friend of mine, long time. We have a lot in common. We both believe Pelé is the best player of all time. We both believe that Brazil is the only place that plays proper soccer.
Yes,
so we have so much.
Absolutely.
The other thing that's funny is that when I first met Javier, it was a long time ago. He was talking about how many Argentinians, they love to do therapy. And then he said to me that the only crazy people in Argentina are the ones not doing therapy. And then after that, I decided it was my time. So I started doing therapy thanks to him. He's a dear friend of mine. I met him a long time ago. I did a Chiat. We were like members of the same jury. We had some fights and fun during that time. And then after that, we met several other times during our career. But it's about him, not about me or Pelé or Neymar, right? So
I fix a caipirinha, guys, just for you to see the love I have for Brazil, especially for this meeting.
You have the banana palms on your back. You have
exactly.
I
have everything. I have everything.
In a tee, I am here with the shirt, so it looks like you are the Brazilian guy.
Yeah.
But anyways, so
I said, Renato, I would not be doing this interview because I will be picking on him all the time. But you are doing so well.
Yes. You can trust Renato on that. Absolutely.
And I prefer me picking on him than you, Joanna.
Of course.
I'm more familiar with that. Anyways, Javier, so thank you very much to be here. Javier is one of those amazing talents that this industry produced. it's funny because he loves to write. He's a big fan of literature. He was a teacher in copywriting. He worked in so many agencies, worked at Ogilvy, Del Campo, then Del Campo Saatchi, and then Saatchi in New York, Thompson. He had an agency with Raposo, El Hotel, FCB, and now working at Gray. So he's been traveled in everywhere. But everything started in 1997 when you had your own business. And it's funny because I started my career with me and my brother. We had a small shop that was in the back of my father's house.
Yeah,
so I know what is the struggle of opening a shop by yourself and trying to make it happen. So instead of start talking with the glamour of advertising, let's start with the dust, with the terrible, humble beginnings. Yeah. Tell me about that. What was that experience for you like, and what do you learn from that experience?
It was pretty formative of many things that I still feel, to this day. First of all, because I did it completely out of awareness of what I was doing. I knew that I wanted to be in advertising. At that time, I was, and this is not a joke, I was an IT guy for a Mac seller in Argentina. These guys sold Macs to advertising agencies, and I was a delivery boy. And they told me how to fix computers. So they will send me, to the advertising agencies, and I was already, studying advertising and in the university, and I thought, okay, this is a good opportunity to meet some people, and my expectation was that I would meet Gucci Bachetti, fixing their computers, and I would show them my book. That never happened. I actually screwed up a computer of Sebastian Willem. Printer of Sebastian Willem, so he never wanted to see me again. But I met the guy who would be eventually my partner. He had a small design studio. He asked me, I told him when I was fixing his computer that I was a writer and I was studying advertising. He was, generous enough to offer me, a couple of freelance gigs. And we ended up, a year later, we ended up being partners in a really small studio, design studio. And because I was joining, we added the advertising, capability to our offer. And so it was really not glamorous at all. We were making a really good money, to be honest. At that time in Argentina, un peso, $1, so it was good money. But I really quickly, I learned that I wasn't happy just by making money, that I really wanted to do, at that time, TV commercials. And with the kind of clients that we had in the studio, it would be impossible, no one had the money to do TV commercials. So I decided to leave. I decided to put together a book and start making the rounds in the agencies in Buenos Aires. And the funny thing is, I didn't really know anything about advertising in an agency at the time, So I would wear really formal clothes because I had clients, and I would go to the clients, and so I would wear shirts and really formal attire all the time. And I didn't know anything, the ads that I was doing at that time were terrible, like really bad. So when I started making the rounds, the first agent, the creators would tell me, you need to subscribe to Archive. That was the first and best advice I got, so I subscribed to Archive and said, okay, now I get it.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what you meant with advertising. All right. So it took me another 6 months to put together a book, trying to steal what I could from Archive, in the sense of how, what were the formulas, what were the ways of doing, print ads. And then I was lucky enough it was not luck. I was calling a guy from Ogilvy that he had like a side gig doing non-profit ads, and I approached him with a campaign for a non-profit organization that they were working. He liked the ideas. Then he introduced me to the CCO at Ogilvy, that was Ted Royer at that time. And they offered me an internship there. So I quit my own studio and went from making a lot of money to make nothing. So I was living out of, my savings for 6 months until they started paying me. But it was the best decision I could have made. Of course, it's really obvious. But at that time already, I wasn't happy without what you could call, the doing good work, because I knew that there was something that I was not doing. I was making money and I was technically speaking in advertising, but I didn't. I knew that that was not what I wanted to do.
You were not happy with your boss.
Exactly, my boss was an asshole. My boss was terrible, and
yeah, what happened to your partner?
Well, he got really mad at me at that time, because but he understood. He understood at some point. He said, listen, you're not going to be happy here. And if you're not going to be happy, we will never be a good partner. So I'm still friends with him, yeah, he didn't. And he kept doing that. And eventually he quit. He was not in that business because he loved design. It was just something that he was doing at that time. But I remember that time, really fondly. It's like it was a good time.
It was like the beginning of the hustler, right? Somebody that's trying to learn your way and trying to make money. Yeah. And I empathize with that a lot, man. When I started, it was the same thing, and I was a little bit of everything. And probably you were as well. You
yeah,
were like,
everything.
The CFO,
everything. Everything.
And you are the guy. I was in a given time getting my motorcycle, and checking out of billboards in the city to see if you were placing time in the day. I did all of this. But then when you do everything, you are master on nothing. And I think you had this drive to be like good at one thing, right? Yeah. Instead of trying to be good at everything. And that goes to the other thing, the archive advice. It's more like you need to get taste. This industry is getting taste. So they told you maybe that was the best lesson they could ever give you. You need to know taste. That's so hard when you're young. You don't know anything better. Yeah. But then you got a job at Ogilvy. Yeah. And then soon enough, you're leading Hellmann's for Latin America. What was the shift from being this kid trying to figure it out? All of a sudden, you go there, you got your work, but then trying to move a little bit faster now. So from that, all of a sudden, you're leading a team. Because you were leading your own agency.
I made the switch from creative to creative director really quick, really fast. But I think that because my background gave me a little bit of advantage in the sense that I was, really, scrappy. I really knew how to talk with clients. I really knew how to, I was really, really responsible, but, I was not like a young creative dude around, I was really, really responsible and focused and I would say a little bit of a nerd. I'm in a goofy sense. It took me some time to make the switch from dressing up like a low class entrepreneurship to the creative guy attire. It took me some time to understand. Okay, maybe I should start dressing differently. So I was a little bit of a nerd. But also, I was really focused on trying to make a career because I felt, and this is something I still feel every day, I felt that I had a handicap because my way to get there had been really unorthodox. So I felt that I had a disadvantage in that regards. I was older than many of my peers. I was 26 at that time. I felt older. Many of my colleagues had started in an agency where they were 19 or 20. So I kind of felt that I was, behind. So I really focused on trying to make my way up. But also at that time, I didn't have any clarity on what was good and what was bad, to be completely honest. So I made it to be creative director. I led big accounts and all that. but I hadn't done any great stuff until maybe 2 or 3 years in the job. The first piece of work I did, the ones that got me into the agency, actually won something at I think one show at that time, but I didn't really understood what it meant. You know, someone came to me and said, "Hey man, you got a merit in one show with that campaign." I was like, "Oh, that's great," but I didn't have yet, you know, the knowledge of what was good and what was bad. Ted Royer left really early, and so I didn't get to learn from him, and so it took me a long time to, I will also say, you know, to your point about the taste, which is, I think, is an amazing point. I didn't get to learn about the criteria and the taste only later on. You know, I learned about that really later on in my career.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I get it. But it's funny you mentioned about not being aware of reality. I remember the first time I got a Cannes Lion. It was also like you, coming from my agency, recently moving to a bigger agency, and I went to Cannes because I was a young blood, and it was a print ad, and it was shortlisted, but I didn't know even what that was. So when I was just visiting the walls there downstairs in Cannes, and I saw that piece, my first reaction is, nice, this is here, where is everything else? I thought, what an execution. And all the work.
All the work was there.
All the work in the word, in all the walls. That was how naive sometimes we are at that time. But the point about leading, and so you're a creative and you move super fast to be a creative director, right? Yeah. And not in your terms, but in reality. No, you didn't have like enough time to enjoy to be a creative. And there's some advantage being a creative, some advantage to be a creative director. But at the same time, being a creative director, people think being a creative director is being a chooser. You're just there asking people to come up with ideas, and then you choose the best ideas. And I know that's not your sense on that, because you spend most of your career as a creative director. So how you get the sense of being creative, being the creative leader, and how you define what this, in our opinion, there's a bunch of creatives in this call right now. What it is to be a creative, what it is to be a creative director, what qualifies a
the creative is yourself with a notepad and a pen. That's being a creative. Any other thing than that is not being a creative. Even if you're a creative director, you are with your notepad and your pen, taking notes of the things that your team is discussing, and then you take some time to write down their ideas and what you think about their ideas and how you can improve them. And then you take some time to write other stuff, you know, that you're thinking. And if you're not doing that, you are not a creative. And I'm really taxative in this regard, because I know I was the opposite for some time, until I learned, okay, no, being a creative is actually sit your ass in the chair and think. So I will never be a picker in as a creative. You know, I still bounce ideas with the teams in every, you know, when we're working, and I still challenge myself to add something to what they're doing, to try to make it better, or to try to help them. If I don't not doing that, I don't consider myself a creator. I don't think that someone that just picks up ideas is doing a creative job, because you know, maybe he or she, they were a creative, but I think that you have to keep improving your craft. You have to keep improving your writing. You have to keep improving, you know, your sense of comedy, your sense of narrative. And again, I was not, when they elevated me to creative, I didn't know anything about it. So I didn't know when to participate, when to shut up, when to, you know, like try to inspire my team or try to scold them. I was a disaster. I was the worst, the creative director, you know, that you could have, because it was way too soon, because I hadn't done my chops as a creative at the time. So my career in that sense, maybe is for everyone works this way, and I'm just too Argentinian and too aware of my mistakes, you know, maybe, or my weird ways. But I think that only when 3 years in the job, I understood what I was supposed to be doing, you know?
But it's funny because we're still trying to figure it out. That's what it is. When you get a job, I'm pretty imagine that when you got even the last position, the first reaction is, how the hell am I going to do that? And then that sense of discomfort is key for it to be successful. I don't imagine somebody getting a job and think, you know what, I'm great. But the reason I ask you that is because after you left Ogilvy and went to work for Pablo at Del Campo Sati, that was the time when I met you for we had a panel, a presentation, I think it was Aloha or somewhere. And I made a presentation there, and I loved your presentation. Your presentation was a masterclass in what is to be a leader and explaining sometimes the notion of limitations. So you have a beautiful story about Nicolino Loche, the boxer. What it means. So I don't want to steal the thunder, but I'd love you to tell that story. Why limitation is important in creativity. That's what I think you're so brilliant as a creative director. You find like ways to invite people to be creative and lead them as giving them the reasons to understand the constraints. They're great.
Yeah. Well, because I think that and even at that time, we have too many options when you start thinking about something, way too many options. And today is even, is mind blowing. So for me, it was always important to understand, okay, this is a brief, this is the deadline, this is the budget, this is what I can say. So I didn't want freedom. I didn't want freedom. I didn't want to be free. I wanted, and I still want to solve a problem with elegance and with, charm or with comedy or whatever. So, and in that sense, when I was preparing that talk, I was thinking, okay, who are good examples of how limitations actually make you better? But it's not about being limited by nature. That could be also the case, right? Because we've seen a lot of examples of people that have technically a limitation and they excel at something because of that limitation. But I was not referring to that. I was referring more to a conceptual limitation. And Nicolino Loche was a great example of a boxer that didn't have any strokes. Yeah. He didn't have a jab. He didn't have a cross, and he didn't have any punch. He didn't have, so what he would do is, well, just do this and that, dodging, dodging, and he would tire his rivals until they were ready to ping and they will fall. So in that regards, I think that you have to set your limits to what you want to do, and because it will make for better ideas. And when we were working, for example, on Tidal was the follow-up to Bradshaw Stein. Bradshaw Stein was, for me, it won even more Lions at Tidal technically, because the rules were different. But the team, when we were doing, we're working for the next idea, they were really nervous because they wanted to do the same thing, so they wanted to do a stunt, and I saw the pressure that they were going through, and I say, okay, forget about the stunt. I forbid you to do a stunt. I forbid you to do something that doesn't happen, in the commercial break. That's the limit I'm gonna put. No, we are not thinking about the stunt. We're not thinking about live, and you cannot do that. And they were relieved in a way, because that took the weight out of their shoulders. It was like, okay, that's fine. So we don't have to think on any crazy, thing. They ended up thinking something that was even crazier, but they didn't know that at the time. So I think that for me, and I sometimes I say, I think probably it's cheap to put it this way, because it's just taking against, some typical American, knowledge. But for me, I'm against the phrase thinking outside the box. I think it's bullshit. It's like, I think that we have to think inside the box, but be super, super amazing inside the box. Completely crazy inside the box. No,
it's I use this advice today with my teams every time. I love that Nicolino Loche example, because it's like a weak boxer that was not meant to be great. And instead of working in his weakness, he works in his strength. His strength, dodging. So he learned how to dodge and masterfully do that. If you think about Muhammad Ali, he did the same. And the example you gave me there was your campaign for Norte beer, because your client, probably don't remember that, but your client there was forcing you guys to work with friends. Friends is the constraint, needs to be something about friends. But most advertise with friends for beer is really lame and basic. And then you came up with this amazing, crazy idea that encouraged everybody to watch, that is based on friendship with interests. So I always want something for my friend. So I'm friends with the IT guy. I'm friends with the rich guy because I want more than just friendship out of this. But the whole root of the idea is friendship. So limitation is not a limitation. It's just a focus. No. And that's how I see it. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's good. It makes you better, I think.
But you mentioned the tied ad. I'm going to touch this in a little second. Just before going there, we're talking about Sachi, and you work with Pablo Del Campo there. Later, you went, of course, to work Sachi in New York. So I imagine that Pablo was like a really important in your career. So tell about that. What was the importance of Pablo in your career?
Pablo is a person that is always aiming, shooting for the moon. Is always shooting for the moon, always, and he doesn't settle, for anything less than that. And I haven't seen anything like that before, in the sense that I had worked with amazing, talented people like Raposo, Colonese, Stricker, Lucero in the hotel, other talented people at Ogilvy, but I never had seen a guy that was so ambitious. He wanted to be, famous in the world, and that's what he wanted his agency to be, at the level of, Widens and Drogas, and he was thinking globally. He wanted to conquer the world, and I had never seen anything like that before, and he also had, reading the Steve Jobs book, there is this part when they talk about this feel of a different reality. I don't remember exactly how they call it, that he could be someone that could make you think something that was not real was real, and Pablo had that ability also, like he started doing the battle of surfaces, Nadal, and that's an idea that is almost it's borderline, really you want to make a tennis court that is half clay, half grass. Why would you want to do that? But he would, and he did it with Nadal and Federer. He didn't do it with two Argentinians, So what I saw there was the level of ambition that was unparalleled, to anything that I had learned before, and also a level of craft that he was really aware that he needed to be competitive with the rest of the world. So the craft in the writing, the craft in everything needed to be world class. And also we practice a lot writing in English, in the sense that he wanted his ideas to travel. But it was not just about awards. He was also savvy business-wise, because what he wanted was to become a hub. Because if we became a hub, we will have a lot of money getting to the agency that he could invest in creative talent. So in that agency, the density of talent that we had was crazy. All the folks that were there, at some point, creative directors, Maxi Itzkov, Mariano Serki, Medvedoki, I'm forgetting people, the guys that run now, GAT in Argentina, Joaquin Cubría, all those guys, they are leading agencies and won tons of awards, and we were creative directors there, and so he was two things from Pablo, the level of ambition and the eye for the talent. He knew something that sometimes we forget really easily, which is if you have density of talent, you have an agency. It's as simple as that. If 80% of your talent is great talent, people that can produce award-winning work, you're fine. If you don't have that, you're screwed. You know, it's as
But
simple as that.
it's really hard for you to be a magnet for great talent, right? Because you need to be delivering all the
Yeah,
time.
well, I think yes, that is true. That is true. But when you go there, you knew that you, if you were lucky and you work hard, you would have a chance to be internationally recognized.
Yeah. But that was, Whiting was like that. Almapi BBDO in Brazil was like that.
Yes.
Was like that. There's some agencies, they were like magnets for talent.
Yes.
Then
yes.
you know, you go to the place and a bunch of people accepting to take like a downgrade.
Yes.
They don't care if they're not
yeah.
there because they prefer to do great work, because that's our nature. You prefer to be to do great work instead of being just a clerk sitting down.
Exactly.
Like in most agencies. But there's one thing that Joanna forced me to ask you here. So it's about teletransporter. So
yeah.
Because we love the idea, it was a big hit, a great success in Brazil, around the world, but in Brazil, everybody loved it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, around the world was it, but in Brazil, I remember the impact when I saw it was incredible. It was so provocative and so wrong in so many ways, right? Because just about a guy finding an excuse to be in the bar and lying to his girlfriend. So all wrongs all together.
Everything.
At the same time was the right time, probably the last time.
Yeah. The last time, yeah.
Do you think you could do something anywhere close to that today?
Yeah. No. I mean, when you think on the case, it's really naive, super naive.
Yeah.
Super naive. I still can show it. You know, I actually show it when I'm in meetings, and of course I make a small intro, pretty much saying what you were saying. I wouldn't do it today, you know, or I would do it differently. But I think it was pretty naive. It was overstated that it was a joke. And, you know, actually few people, the people that we put on the case study were really the exceptions. Most people got into the machine just to, you know, just to have fun and call friends, and no one was really pretending that they were lying. But what I like about that idea, and I want to say something, you know, before keep going, is like most of the ideas we're talking are ideas that I did with a group of people, you know, like a large group of people. So I'm not pretending that any of these ideas came naturally out of my mind. Some of them, yes, but most of them, you know, were done in teams, right? So I'm not a genius that came up with any of these.
To be honest, I'm pretending you didn't do any of them because you are a creative director.
Any of them. So in that case, you know, I think that the insight came from two creative Chilean creatives that were at the camp at that time, Pato y Mula, and they were actually you know, trying to lie to us that they were somewhere else instead of working, and that is how they came up with the idea. So I think that the insight is still relevant, you know, the idea that you, especially these days, you want to be you want to be somewhere else, you know, like all the time. So I think that the insight is really relevant. What I think that wouldn't work today is that the idea of people lying at the bar is impossible, because no one, it's really hard to hide these days. I think that people actually would love the chance to lie a little bit. We can't lie anymore, you know. Everyone knows where we are all the time, which is it's awful, you know. I hate it, you know. So it's so wrong, you know, that you can't hide. You don't have privacy to lie. So yeah, you couldn't do it.
Yeah, but it's funny because when you tell that story, it's basically the story was rooted in a truth. It's an insight written completely true. The two Chilean guys, and something was so good for them. Yeah. So maybe the best way to do the teletransporter today is to find what is this new truth that rings true to today time, and it's possible or it's not going to be ruined by a phone that gives you away.
Exactly. So there were some things that reminded me of the teletransporter, you know, in the last months. You know, the people that doing plugins for you to pretend that you are in Zoom and you are not. But I don't think that is true. You know, that you don't want to lie that you're in front of Zoom. You know, you just want to go with it and try to finish it.
Kids here in America, they're learning how to cheat Zoom masterfully. And they do all kind of tricks. There's one thing that they do here. The kids, one thing they do here is they ask to get control of the Zoom call, and then they just expel the teacher over and over again. So they do all that.
You mean kids in school?
Yes, in school. Zoom,
yeah.
Because it's about lying and being deceiving.
Yeah.
There's always a new way to do that.
Yeah.
But anyways, so then of course you had your time there in Argentina, in Del Campo and Thompson, El Hotel, and then you moved to America, where you went to work at Saatchi. FCB first. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. But then you did there the 2 amazing Tide campaigns. Sorry. Mm-hmm. First Bradshaw, and then you did It's a Tide ad. I was going to ask you about that, about what it was to do a follow-up, was to do the first and the second campaign. You already explained the take there. But on It's a Tide ad, everybody knows that story. So I'd love to know what we don't know. You know, I know it was a huge orchestration for you to come up with this idea. Now, when you present an idea that involves other brands, you have Old Spice, you have Mr. Clean, you are trying to get something that is like a takeover, a Super Bowl, super expensive. How did you pull it? How you convinced the clients to do that? What was the story behind?
Well, I mean, the client was convinced because of Bradshaw, because Bradshaw was actually way more difficult to pull, way more difficult, because it implied a stunt. We were pretending that the announcer was live and it wasn't live, and we shot it, and we had to shot it the same exact way that, resemble all the things that will happen that night. We didn't know what the amount of time that would pass between the stunt and the actual commercial break. So we were pretty much, praying that night. The night that Bradshaw Stein ran, we were in the war room in the agency, and you do Super Bowl ads, so you know that there is a war room with clients and all that. And we were pretty much internally praying, like, please, this needs to go away, because it would have been a huge embarrassment in front of everyone doing that. So the clients after that, I think that they were 2 things. They were full of themselves in a good way, and also really confident in the agency and that we could pull almost anything, way more confident than we were, so when we had to do Tide, that was actually, a commercial and a series of short versions of that commercial, it didn't seem so difficult. I think all the other things, bringing other brands and all that was America. America is I love America in that regards. When you have the Latino mindset, because I think those 2 ideas are really Latinas, like in the sense that we are trying to hack the system, we're trying to cheat the system, trying to get more out of something. But when you put that level of Latin mentality through the channel of the money and the scale and the contacts and the PR machine that America has, it's magic. I wish I could tell you an amazing story about how I convinced, Mr. Clean, but it was actually the fact that it was P&G and they had good connections, and the brand manager of, and also, Old Spice. The brand manager of Old Spice was the wife of the Tide, brand manager. So it was, I guess that they discussed that at the kitchen, at home, and she said yes. So it was a series of really lucky moments, but you have to have an idea to seduce all the people. I think that is the power of an idea, to your point, because everyone wanted to happen. Everyone wanted it to happen. It's really, I mean, it's like being in a jury when you suddenly are rooting for a piece of work that is from someone else, and you're rooting like it's your own. And a group of people is like, no, it has to win the Grand Prix, and it's not yours. It's not even close to your agency. But so that's what happened when you have a great idea. Everyone wants it to happen, and the client wanted it to happen. The media agency wanted it to happen. The other brands wanted it to happen. Everyone was like, no, this needs to happen, And then the machine in America, you know, which is marvelous. It's amazing. And I really miss it, you know, because it works so well. When it works, it's really, 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 really oiled, you know, it goes.
Well, how much time of preparation you had for that? Because as you knew, it's like second year after Bradshaw, you've been working since the beginning of the year. When you lock it, because although it's
no, we lock it really late, really, really late. To be honest, that Saatchi agency was a little bit of a miracle. We were really few guys, really few people. You know, I had brought some Brazilians, Kiko and Kiko. Come on, they are gonna kill me. Rafa and Kiko. I had brought Daniel Lobaton, a guy from Peru. I had brought a woman from Argentina, Maddie Kramer. I was putting together a really diverse team because I wanted a diverse team to tackle that brief. But we didn't really have too many resources. And actually we came up with the idea on a Saturday. We presented the idea on Monday, and that was the last meeting before we knew that if that meeting we didn't crack it, we will start getting stress from the client and all that, and it was really late in the game, really late in the game. So it was done in a really Latino way, to be honest, you know, really scrappy, really not on time, you know, and luckily we had an amazing producer that she was like, I think that she got older, for 10 years older after those two projects, you know, because yeah.
No, having a great producer is fantastic. But you mentioned having this multicultural team. So it was a thing for you. And I want to know about the importance of that. You said you want to have this Latin flavor with different diverse talents. Is this a thing for you, always trying to get to diversity? And how you, on the other hand, work this out in the agency where when you start to hire a lot of Latins, you face the pressure of not hiring Americans. What's your perfect balanced team?
I think that it has to do with the leadership. You know, the first time I tried to do that in FCB New York, I wasn't that successful because the leadership team in the agency was not solid, was not strong at the time. So it was hard to protect, you know, and to defend those decisions. In Saatchi New York, the CEO was a Latino woman, you know, from Venezuela. She was my partner in other projects in Saatchi in past years. So that issue was not really there. You know, we had not because I don't mean by this that is by default in America. Actually, my clients in Saatchi New York were so open, and you are a beloved CCO, you know, in America, and I saw how your clients at Gatorade put a page, you know, a print ad thanking you for your work when you were promoted. So what I'm saying is, it's more sometimes your own, you know, fear of putting a casting that is weird for the market and failing. You know, when I did this in Saatchi New York, I was not afraid of failing because my partner was really supportive, and there was no fear of being backstabbed, no fear of being thrown under the bus, no fear of anything, any of the things that I had experienced in other places. So I felt confident enough to put together a team. And also I felt more confident, you know, in the sense that I knew that if I had to step in, I could do it at the time. I felt strong enough to say, okay, if any client is complaining, I can step in and I can solve it. You know, the first time in America, I didn't feel that way. The second time in New York, I felt that I was in control of my craft. To your point at the beginning, I was writing in English way better than I was writing when I got there. I was presenting in English way better than I was presenting when I got there at the first time. So it was a matter of self-confidence. And also I believe, and I still do, that you get better ideas when you have a diverse team. You know, what you get more and better ideas. that doesn't mean that the diverse means Latinos. Diverse mean we have people from New Zealand. We have people also within America. You have diversity, you know, because you have every America is so vast that you get people from different parts, and that's diverse as well. I wish we could have had, you know, more time to actually, you know, build up a more diverse team.
Not only diversity, but also you were talking about not having fear, and that makes a huge big difference. And I'll do one question, and that's it, because I'll have to leave a little bit before you guys end up. And well, I'm a huge fan of your personality, and I've seen you fighting for those passionate ideas, and in different forums, and it is something very, very I think necessarily in a lot of people have been losing that because of fear, because of comfortable, because of whatever. But the thing is, because it's I mean, I'm afraid of losing my job or or the client or whatever, and I've seen you before and after going to, because I know you for a long time, but I've seen you before going to America, and then after America, and I can say that before you were much anger person, and but at the end you made your best idea and won all the awards that was possible in the United States, and became famous worldwide. And the thing is, do you miss being that? What did you learn how to deal with this anger and to use it for better? Because
I think
the sensation I have is that you still have the same passion, but you use it in the best way, in a more clever way.
Yeah, I still have the same passion, and I still feel anger many times. I mean, you know, the thing is, one thing that I can say, I think I can say this openly. I think in America, when you lose your shit, you lose. You know, it's like you lose. There is no way to win when you lose your shit. That's not forgivable. That puts a label on you. People think that you're crazy. People think that you don't have control of yourself. And I didn't want to be that guy. You know, I didn't want to be the crazy Argentinian in a corner, you know, throwing tantrums. I said, okay, I have to learn. You know, if I want to work here, I need to learn how to express myself in a more convincing way. And also, I think that sometimes it's a character that you build up, right? And I didn't want either to be eaten alive by the character. You know, being angry is not something that defines me as a person. It was just one aspect. And when I was really passionate about an idea, and the rest of the people didn't realize the potential of the value of the idea, I would get really mad about that. But I didn't want to be that character. You know, I wanted to be able to convince using other things, and also what I didn't lose is my punchiness. If I still have it, sometimes I guess I do, sometimes I don't. But I try to be smarter. You know, I try to find better ways to sell something, and so I don't miss that. No, I don't miss that. What I wish is that we didn't need to be so feisty sometimes to sell an idea, but that's the nature of our business, you know. And to be honest, another thing that I learned in America, and Renato probably can add to this, is in Argentina. I always tell this example. In Argentina, when you're a CCO or a creative director, you are a little bit like a general in a horse, on a horse. You say we're going there and we're going there no matter what, and we're doing that no matter what, and people will follow you, and you go, maybe you will lose some lieutenants or some, but you get and you win the battle and you do your shit, and you are like a hero. And in America, if you have not aligned all the people seriously, like in a more democratic way, no one's going to follow you, and the idea can fall at any second because maybe an account director is not convinced, and she or he talk to the client and they tell, listen, I'm not really convinced about this idea, and the client will listen because it's a more democratic also landscape. So it's not that, and the CCO, no, I'm the CCO, and we are the CCO, but this person here thinks that this is not going to fly. And so you lose your superpower in that regards. You don't have the superpower of being the crazy person, the crazy Napoleon in the horse, like conquering everything.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's the media partner, Javier. The media partner.
Sometimes it's the media partner. Yes.
You're done.
Yeah.
You're done. And they listen to them. The client listen to them with the same attention they listen to us. So you need to be more enticing and invite everybody to dance along.
Yes.
Everybody needs to be part of the dance for something to happen.
But in the end, it's better.
Yeah.
Because in the end, it's better.
I'll do just the last thing because I have to leave. But if you could talk a little bit about the humor from the Argentinians, and that is so amazing. And you've done the Vuela that dies many times, and I love that kind of humor. And everyone that sees that movie is just think that it's so based on real things. And I'll leave you guys with with all those people that are having the opportunity of watching you too, and
that's it.
our hands for you. And so you guys can talk a little bit about that and tell the story of Abuela for people, and that it's really nice.
Now that I've been experienced, I've been traveling, and lived in many different places. I find that we have a sense of humor that is really unique. It's pretty unique. Argentinian sense of humor. It's really. We have a use of our language that is really complicated. We talk a lot. We are really ambiguous when we talk. We never say anything straight, and that's something I haven't noticed before. Before going abroad. So I think that we have a really sophisticated use of the language at the colloquial level. At the colloquial level, the normal guy, the normal woman would be really sophisticated in the use of the language, and I think that makes for a really interesting approach to comedy, because the way we use words is funny. I from time to time I watch Argentinian movies, and I really miss working with Argentinian actors because of the way they used words and how they pronounce certain words. And then we are really self-aware. I think that now I think I've finally understood why we are so much into psychoanalysis. I think it's because we are really self-aware of ourselves. So, really self-aware. We are really observant of everything we do. We are not relaxed like you guys are sometimes. We are not, easygoing. We are not laid back. We are really like paranoid and thinking, and if I do this, she's gonna do that, and he's gonna say this. So it's really there is a lot of self-analysis, and that makes for good insights. You know what you do. You're not pretending that you don't know. When you lie, like in the case of grandma, and you say, no, I don't feel well. My grandma's not feeling well. You did that 100 times in your life, but you are aware as an Argentinian. You're aware of that. I notice in other cultures, and I'm not going to point out to anyone, but I notice in other cultures that people lie, or people, are fake, or people are hypocrite without acknowledging it, without understanding that they are doing it. we understand that we're doing it. When I'm fake, or you know, when I'm trying to be self-contained, I know that what I'm doing, you know, and I know that right now I'm speaking in a public forum, so there are certain things that I cannot say because I went through America and I don't want to get in trouble. So there are certain jokes that cross my mind, but I'm not gonna tell those jokes, you know, and I'm aware of all that all the time, you know, all the fucking time. So I think that that's something really Argentinian. That is why we are more paranoid. You know, that is why we are more, you know, tortured also in a way, and I think that is why we can find really good insights, you know, because we are really self-aware.
It's funny, there's not only self-awareness, but also you're so self-deprecating as well. You know, Argentinians, you really, it's really hard for me, for example, to have a football battle with Argentina. I have 2 Argentinians work with me.
Yeah, Bruno Yari.
And 4, in fact. I have them, Tincho and Ez as well. But the 2 that I had for longer, Adel and Bruno, every time I try to mock them, I say, yeah, it's Argentina, they're playing really bad. If I'm talking to a Brazilian, they will just get back at me. And my team, if I attack his team, he will attack my team immediately. But if I attack an Argentinian, the first response is, oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, we're never going to win. And I go, that's not how it goes. I make fun of you, you make fun of me, and then we move. No. They accept. There's this sense that I am not great. And maybe that's what makes you guys great, because by acknowledging that, you take a step back and maybe you read the room, and the beauty, I always say, the cinema in Argentina is fantastic because it reveals human truth in a way that is so relatable. So it's incredible. You watch those films and somehow that story touches you. You never lived in Buenos Aires. You never been to Argentina. You barely understand Spanish, but you empathize with that story. That story is like a perfect read on humanity. Why? Because you're not afraid of sharing those sentiments. So it's not only human. But you make people smile in the same scandal, you make people laugh. You know, the Brazilian humor, of course we have this elaboration, but it's way more slapstick. More like you're trying to make big jokes, and there's something in your humor of Argentina that is like a great read in how humans behave. I love that.
Yeah, I think probably it's not good for a country, it's good for its individuals. You know, for me, it's you know, it's an undeniable truth. Now I learned to be a little bit less self-aware, but even in America at the beginning, I was so fucking aware that my English was crap, so aware that I was missing words, that my presentation skills were bad. I remember that, but that also forces you to confront the truth and say, okay, I need some coaching. I need to learn better English. And people were like, no, you're super charming. They love when you speak, when you come up with words. I was like, I don't want to come up with words. I want to use the right ones. You know, it's like, you know, but I was really self-aware. Yeah. It's the way we are born, you know, it's not a choice, you know?
Yeah, it's true. But in a way, I think what we do is we get in empathy what we miss in perfection in the way we say things. There's a lot we correct our lack of perfect English with an incredible empathetic way to present ourselves. We are playing our flaws. Again, going back, it's an amazing Argentinian feature. You compensate something with something else, and that is enduring, and that's something that people really empathize with.
Yeah.
You mentioned like diversity. We talk a little bit about that, but today diversity is something completely different, as you know. And I talk a lot about that. When you talk about diversity in the U.S., bringing Argentinians and Chileans and Brazilians.
Yeah, that's not diversity.
That's not diversity, because you're bringing the very best talent from those countries to work in this country. Diversity is really give a chance for minorities to have that is a big thing today. Have not having, oh, I need a black talent. Okay, let me get somebody from Australia. No, that's not diversity. Diversity is create a system where you allow.
And you have to over-index. You have to over-index the search. You know, because
that has been a reality, as you know, here in America after George Floyd and everything that's been happening in this country for the last few months. But now you're in Europe working. Great. How is this affect you guys? The sense of diversity. What do you think about diversity? Not only as like a compensation reality, but what do you think? The same way you describe diversity as a great way, a way to get better ideas. When you're talking about Argentinians, Chileans, Brazilians, how you see this diversity that is overcompensating as a reality, and what do you give in terms of positives or negatives to our industry, and how you are adapting to that, Gray?
It's a really vast question. You know, the first thing is that there is a sense of justice that to what is happening. You know, the same way that when the Me Too movement started, and you felt that it was so huge and so you know, fierce, and you could feel in the air that there was a sense of something that needed to be done for too long. So the energy is you know, is just palpable, you know, and I feel the same thing about what's happening in America. I don't think it's happening here with the same strength that is happening in America, because Europe is, as you know, is really diverse and heterogeneous, you know, like and it's not the same, but you have places or countries where you can see that, you know, in a more blatant way, like France, for example, you know. But what I think is that it's happening in America, so it can happen in the rest of the world. The curious thing about America is that it has a cascade effect towards the rest of the world. So sometimes even things that are happening somewhere else are not relevant until those things don't happen in America. No, Argentina has equal marriage for way before than many other countries. But when America was about to sanction, you know, equal marriage, in Argentina was a big deal, and you don't understand why, because we already have it. Yeah, but until it happens there,
it's not real.
It's not real. It feels like it's not happening because it's the center of the Western world. But to your point in the what we can do as an industry, I think that we have to over-index and in the search of talent, and we have to stop thinking that, you know, that there is a way of doing things that is the right way. Because of course, if you had white male people mostly writing advertising for the last 50 years, advertising has a shape, has a format, has a way of writing, has a way of crafting things, right? Because this same group of people have been in power, crafting, deciding, choosing certain type of ideas. And those ideas are the ones that have been awarded, have been recognized, and have been celebrated. So suddenly the benchmark for what is good advertising needs to change also. You know, I was the president of the copywriting for advertising jury in D&AD 2 years ago, last year. There was a piece of work that is amazing for me, which is the Snickers, you know, Broadway show. Snickers or Skittles?
Skittles. Yeah.
Skittles. For me, it was the best copywriting, you know, bar none. I thought this has to win everything because there's nothing at this level. And I was the president of the jury, so I couldn't really influence, you know, the decisions of my group. I could just, you know, listen and maybe give my opinion. And suddenly, this piece was not even making the shortlist. You know, it was a really young, you know, jury, because D&AD has a lot of students. And I was like, guys, sorry, I said at some point, I need to ask you. I don't want to influence you, but I need to ask you, how come you are not liking this piece of work? I think it's one of the best pieces of work of the year by far. And they were like, no, you know, like, I couldn't get a proper answer. So afterwards, I you know, I made a question to this woman, really young, art director, black, from UK, and she was like, yeah, it really feels really addy, it's like, it feels like it's wrote to appeal advertising people. I couldn't care less about that, I don't care about that. It feels like someone wrote it to for the taste of guys like you that are into advertising and that kind of stuff, and so I don't care about it. And I was like, okay. So in a way I was like, she's right.
Yeah.
And I'm right as well. It's an amazing piece of work. But to your point, that's how diversity, influences the work. It's a different point of view. It's not just about race or gender. It's also about a complete different point of view that comes to challenge the mainstream that has been, winning and has been celebrated for the last 50 years. Yeah. So suddenly, guys like you and I, that we love certain type of advertising, we need to switch our minds and say, okay, maybe this is also great advertising, but it has a different language, has a different approach, it has a different, grammar and syntaxes and everything, because it comes from a completely different place that we haven't been in touch with. Yep. As an industry.
And it's funny because we tend to compare the work we see with the work we've been seeing for 10, 15 years. And that's our bar. We're judging the work against the quality work we saw year after year, where this new generation, they couldn't care less about that. They're just trying to see the value, the price value they see on the idea on itself compared to anything else. And that's why here in America, I think this diversity play going to be a huge revolution, because same way as like in the beginning of the 90s, when computers got to advertising and they changed the landscape, or in the 60s, when art directors, they move to work with copyrights to change the landscape. I think the new approach to social media and how people are consuming content is going to change the landscape. How many people are truly watching TV? When was the last time you saw an ad on a TV in America? People don't have TVs on their walls anymore. TVs are on their pockets all the time. And they don't have like the classic TV subscription anymore. It's all on demand. They prefer to have Hulu's or Netflixes, and they get the content they want. And they are more keen to see themselves in TikToks and Snapchats than anywhere else. And it's a place where brands, they have no clue how to operate. And in that sense, I think diversity can be a great play. Because when you go to find new talent, this new talent needs to be diverse to understand this audience that's using the platforms. So I really hope diversity will come to advertising in the same way it came to basketball or baseball. Think about baseball in the 30s before Jackie Robinson. It was a terrible game. Black people and then the Cubans and all the Latins, they turned baseball into another sport. Yeah. The same way with basketball. Before 60s, Celtics, they were like the benchmarked, like we are in the creative work. That's what basketball is. No black people. And then all of a sudden, black people change the game. You start playing above the rim. It changed the game. And I think diversity has the opportunity in 10 years or even sooner to change what advertising truly is. What we judge as good idea will change. And I don't think...
There is also another level of diversity that we don't talk about, which is class. Oh yeah. In our industry, only middle class, upper middle class people can access to agencies. You don't see a junior copywriter coming from a Villa in Argentina. You don't see a junior copywriter. I don't know about Brazil. You don't see a junior copywriter coming from slum, in Brazil. So we only do stuff based on middle class insights, middle class, So and that's something that cinema has changed many years ago. Advertising keeps talking to the same people, or the same people keep writing, the stuff. So you don't have.
It's not that you don't have, but it's an exception. But then to that point, so you see, advertising needs not to look like advertising. It needs to look like music and cinema. And when you go there, those fields, they are diverse. Yes. So that's my hope. We can shop in a more diverse universe that's going to give like the true reality. We want to get stuff that blends into culture. And I think diversity has the opportunity to really transform this reality. but it's on us also to go and preach. So here I'm going to high schools, like poor communities, high schools, to talk to people and explain to them that advertising is a possibility. Because that's the other thing. How you expect them to go if they have no clue that advertising can be a profession? So there's nothing to try there. And of course, there's a lot to do with the fact that they don't see themselves. They don't see themselves there. So why are they going to try something that there's no way they're going to be good at? So getting more diverse talent in leadership positions will invite more new talents coming from poor beginnings, and then it might have a change. But I think we are on time. I don't want to be like, I want to be respectful of the time. Cissa, do you have more time to keep talking? Because he has caipirinha. I can get one. We can keep talking like forever.
I'm fine. It's really late here, so I'm already wasted.
A gente pode dar aí uma última, let's make one last question, and
cool.
I think we are already on 1 hour and 15 minutes. So
cool. So last question for you, Javier, is, 2020, terrible. What is that, Jonah?
You said cool. I heard no, and that would be much more Argentinian, much more Javier that I know.
Would be great. You know what? No, let's stop here.
Yeah.
Okay, Javier, last question. 2020, it's been like the dream year, right?
Yeah, amazing.
Everything wrong happening at the same time. Yeah. Fires, pandemic, all the things. So
Argentinian year.
We're finally feeling like Argentina in the 90s. We are now feeling what.
Now you know what we're talking about.
So how you see the role of advertising agencies, how you see your role, how you see advertising playing a role in the world we're living now. Are you hopeful? You think we're going to go back to working in our offices, or going to be like locked down forever? Give me something optimistic.
Yes, that's tough for me, but I think I'm not gonna say that creativity is gonna be more important than ever, and all those things that we like to say to defend our craft, because I don't think that is necessarily true. I do think that it's an amazing time for smart people and resilient people, because we are dealing with so many changes at the same time, and that survival really depends on those characteristics in empathy and resilience and a way to see the world under a different light, which is what we creatives do all the time, And so I think it's a good time to be a creative person, for many different reasons. You are locked in your house. You have to express something. You have tools as a creative person to express yourself even within these circumstances. So I think that creative people have more chances of survival than other type of people. The industries that we work for is a different matter, because you have so many layers of complexity. You have the cultural level, where you have to keep the culture of a company alive in this moment. Is really, really difficult, because there's a lot of switch, people right now, because you lost the culture in a sense, that thing that, kept you glued in a place, it's kind of lost. So for someone that doesn't have so many attachments, it's the same. So if I'm going to work for a screen, I can work for any screen. Mm-hmm. So I think that keep building the culture is key if you want to retain talent. But at the same time, when it comes to our counterparts, that we are not talking so much about them, the clients, that are the other half of what we do. I think that this brought us closer to the clients, because this COVID is an equalizer, no doubt about that. So right now you're seeing the wall in my studio in my house. I'm seeing a little bit of your house and Joanna's and everyone. So that situation puts you in a more balanced and a more balanced feel. That the situation of I walk into a meeting and there is the CEO of the company that he's with this expensive suit and this Rolex watch or any. This isn't a stereotype, but what I'm saying is this brings us closer than we were as creatives and marketers, and I think that is a good thing. That is actually a good thing, because it made the whole process more human and the culture that you're losing in the agency, I think you're creating it with clients. Right now, I can sense that with certain clients, I already have a culture in that bubble of relationship that I have with them. This group of people working for this client, we have a culture, So it's many different small buckets of culture that with the clients, but the danger of losing the culture as a whole in the agency. And I think we are going to go back to work at the actual venue, but it's not going to be like it was ever again. When this started, I told my wife, like the second day, I told her, this changed everything forever. And she was like, you're exaggerating. No, this changed everything forever. I'm pretty sure this changed everything forever. And I don't know, some days I'm really optimistic about it. Some days I'm really pessimistic. What I miss is the spontaneity of ideas that you can only come up with when you are talking about nothing with your colleagues. Yeah. And that's not happening, and we need to find a replacement for that situation. You and I talking about shit, and you say something funny, and I say, "Oh, that looks like something we could use for this brief," and that, and you have something that is not happening, and it's not going to happen in this setup because you have Renato from 2 to 2:30.
But not only that, because it's one thing for the teams to do this, but the other thing is for new talent. There's a lot that you learn just by watching how magic's made, being in the room for assistants, for young talent, where they are sometimes in some meetings or just seeing the creative machine operating, then we lose. So they need to learn by themselves in the hermetic reality of their Zoom meetings. That's a little bit sad. But I'm with you. I think we need the reason we are not going to go back to where we were is because it was a good experience. It's not that we are downgrading the quality of the work. The life got better with the chaotic reality. People are more in tune with their families. They're more connected. They're forcing the meetings to be more meaningful. There's a lot of positives into that. Yeah. And we're missing a lot. So we need to find the future, a good balance there. But I said it was the last question, but I need to ask you one more thing. It's a simple thing. It just needs a simple answer. Mm-hmm. What advice will you give to the young Javier Campopiano that's starting in advertising right now?
Write more.
You don't know nothing.
Write more. Be in less meetings. Waste less time in politics, in gossip, and all the stuff that sometimes we enjoy. And Harari says that it's necessary in Sapiens. He says gossip is necessary to evolve, but it makes us waste a lot of time. And I think that there's something that is natural in working in an organization, that you get caught many times in the politics, in the relationship, and this, and I think it's fine to a certain extent, but I wish I wrote more. More ads, more copy, more scripts, more stuff. I should be writing more right now. And sometimes I'm too lazy. But the advice would be write more.
That's amazing, my friend. Thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you.
It was a great time. 1 hour well spent with you. Thank you for the invitation, Cisa, and getting Javier to be here, Cisa and Lais. Thank you, Lena. Thank you, Joanna. for inviting me here. I had a lot of fun just listening to you. I hope everybody had the same. Thank you.
It was amazing, Javier and Renato. It was a pleasure, and I hope we can do that more time because we miss that. It's like a really good talk, and that was a great opportunity for many people that are watching and are going to watch, because it's going to be on our YouTube for the Clube de Criação. And I just can say thanks, and I miss you guys, and hope you're fine.
Same.
Hope we see each other as soon as we can.
Thank you, Joanita. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Renato. Pleasure.